Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. Simeon,
Katya.
we are family, Kremenyuk family.
Yeah.
We are new to Canada. We are Ukrainians, and we're starting our podcast. And what you can expect. First of all, a lot of Ukrainian English. That's first of all. But we feel like we're in a unique position being immigrants, but be actually able to explain ourselves to locals. So our idea is that this podcast could be interesting for you just because we are one of the few immigrants who can, have this whole experience, have this experience in video, and be able to share our thoughts, our ideas, and in your language. So that's the technical part, right? But what is this podcast is all about? At this point, first of all, you need to know that I just saw recently a statistic that average podcast, like 95 something percent of podcasts do not survive a third episode. So you go with first, second, and then most of podcasts, they're like, no, I'm done.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah. So fingers crossed we're gonna survive 3,100 and whatever.
Or maybe just 4.
Yeah, 4, and we'll be like...
Beat the statistics and we're done.
to beat the statistics, yeah. But that's what I wanted to kind of explain overall. But the idea for podcast is to explain differences between the country that we grow up, born and raised, which is Ukraine, and then the country that we experience now and that we call home now, which is Canada.
Yeah.
And believe me, there are a lot of differences, a lot of common stuff, but also...
So many things seem to be so similar.
Yeah.
It's sometimes scary because it really feels like home because of all those similarities, but some things are so drastically different that you're like, why is this way?
Yeah, you go ahead and suggest your topics for next episodes in the comments. But for today, we decided to kick things off with all this industry of real estate and home owning and renting and how this whole thing is done in Ukraine, both commercially, like financially, and culturally, which is, in my opinion, the most interesting part. How young adults perceive this idea of owning a home or renting for the rest of their lives in cultural sense, in comparison to what we experienced here for the last 2.5 years.
2.5 years, yeah.
Right? So that's what we're doing. Hope you support this podcast. We didn't thought about the name for a podcast.
We'll figure it out as we go. Just
We-
let it be the podcast.
We Ukrainians. We Ukrainians.
Just Ukrainian podcast.
Just Ukrainian podcast. JUP.
Why all those letters?
JUP.
You make
Just
it.
Ukrainian podcast.
Jup.
You name it.
It's going to be Jup.
New job came out. No.
Don't need to complicate it.
No?
No.
You're gonna have to suggest us,
Help us with
a name too. So let's start. First of all, I'm gonna ask you, what do you think is the most dramatic difference between the idea, like a perception for a young family, for example? Let's remember our own life. When we just got married, what were we thinking about in terms of our own place? What do you think?
Like the only thing that I can think about is that in Ukraine, every good parent considers it a mission of their life to give a real piece of real estate to their kids, so that kids didn't have to take care of where to live, to rent, because rent is considered to be a waste of money, which I believe to be a waste of money.
We're gonna come back to this because we had our discussions.
Yeah, I won. So
Yes, you did, because we are homeowners now.
Yes,
And
I was right.
yeah, as always. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So, anyways, all my life, I know that my parents always were building their life and they were thinking about where will I live when I grow up. And I know your parents did the same thing too. So when we got married, we were living in the condo that my parents owned because they lived overseas. And then your parents and my parents cooperatively gave us the first home that we had.
Yeah,
And then
it was a really small condo.
Yeah.
Really in not the safest place. It was not. It was in a horrible condition. We had to renovate
yeah,
it
we
totally.
renovated it.
But the thing is that the important part, they didn't, put a down payment on it. They purchased it with cash.
They
So,
purchased it with cash
50-50.
long time ago.
Yeah.
Like the very first one.
Yeah.
And they just were renting it. So when we needed a place to live,
Renting out it.
yeah, your parents just stopped leasing it and my
Yeah.
parents paid for renovations. So that
Kinda
came up
like
to like 50-50.
evened out, yeah.
And then
And I'll just add that you said like every good parent thinks about it. Probably that's true, but to be more correct, I'd say every parent wishes this.
yes.
So
Yeah.
obviously not everyone can afford this. Obviously not everyone fortunate enough. But the idea, the society way of raising kids and is that you
You give them
pass
education
on-
and
yeah.
you give them home.
Yeah, you pass on generational wealth, and yes, education is very important too, because it's the same thing. And
Yeah.
we bring this up just because how different it is here in comparison to Ukraine and pretty much all Eastern Europe, where it's not a discussion. You're either very gifted and talented kid, and you
Study for free.
Yeah, get an education, higher education, like a university or college or whatever, for free, just because you get a tuition.
Like it's a tuition and no, it's not a tuition, it's a scholarship.
Scholarship.
Like
yeah.
if you're a good student and you're a straight A student, you get a scholarship, you study for free, but you
it's
have to
pretty
maintain.
high.
It's pretty high, yeah, but it's quite it's doable.
Yeah,
it's not
and
like something.
yeah, and you have to be good throughout the whole thing, because
to maintain your high average.
because you can lose it, and
Yeah.
they will require you to pay for it further on.
Yeah, and when you study for free, they also pay you like a monthly payment for students.
Yeah.
So
you have
that you don't have to work, but you can study and you can have. It's a very low amount.
Yeah, it's
it
like
won't cover.
$30
It won't
month.
cover any of your costs, but it can offset the total expenses that you have as a student on a monthly
kind of like
basis.
pension.
Yeah.
They paying poor students. No, but yeah, seriously, one of my childhood friends got into this free higher education, and I haven't seen him since. So those kids just stayed home and they
only
learn.
study, yeah. But that makes sense. Like if the government pays for your education, you want to make sure that you use that and you study. But besides the education, like every Ukrainian parent considers it their life mission to give their kids education and housing.
I would say, and it doesn't change when all these like modern very successful parents, they would be like, sometimes they'd be like, hey, I won't give anything to my kids. I want them all to achieve everything themselves. Not in even in those cases, they kind of like cheat when they say that, because they still feel
help
like
them to get a high-paying job that would
Yeah.
pay for the mortgage and everything. But
Yeah.
also, like, I think it happens because mortgage in Canada is like, if we don't look at the past few years where the rates went crazy high, the
crazy high.
crazy high is still like 5 times lower than what we have. Because our average rate is like 20 to 30%. It's been like
it's
fluctuating between those, and like in
crazy.
5 years you pay out another like a double price
Yeah.
of your
So it's
housing. It
it's
doesn't
crazy.
make sense.
It's the same thing for a car. Usually,
Yeah.
if some of my friends said that they got a new car and it's brand new and fancy new, chances are they took a loan for it, which means they're gonna by the end of it they're gonna pay twice for this car.
It's the
At
minimum,
least,
at
at
least.
least,
Usually
yes.
3 or 4
Same thing
times.
for a house or a home. So for any sane person, it is considered to be stupid to take a loan for a car, or even worse, for a house.
I'm sorry, do you remember the crisis in 2008?
Yeah.
Oh, when the prices and everything went so crazy up, and the exchange rate, the rate of the US dollar
Currency
to
exchange, yeah.
Ukrainian hryvnia was so bad that people were losing their homes because many people took the loans from the developers,
Yeah.
like the company that built the houses. And so because they were offering lower rates and easier qualification requirements, but then those people were so screwed up with
Yeah.
with the rates and everything.
I mean,
it's insane.
there's so many, like when you were talking, I thought like there's so many topics we need to discuss in this podcast.
Yeah.
And not in this, but overall I have topics, tons of topics. But one more thing that I just need to like explain, that any house economy in Ukraine, like family economy in Ukraine, broadly depends on currency exchange. So you have all your savings you want to keep in American dollar
Or euros.
or euros,
Like whatever
yes.
you prefer.
But it's not in a national currency.
Yeah.
And
Because it
what
depreciates very quickly.
yeah, but what happened in 2008? There were a lot of people who had loans, different loans, like car, like whatever. And the worst case is they had like a real estate loan, like a mortgage, and they had it in dollars.
Yeah, you pay out in hryvnias, but they
No.
calculated
The most
in US
important,
dollars.
yeah, the most important thing, that you earn money in hryvnias, in Ukrainian currency, but you owe a bank dollars.
Yeah.
And when 2008 hit, the difference between those two currencies went skyrocket. Like it
3 times.
Yeah, so I had a friend who had a apartment, pretty nice apartment, our neighbor in the this comfort town where we lived. It's a huge development in Kiev. And he had absolutely the same condo as we had, and he took a loan for it. He paid 2 years for it, and you only can take 10 years loan in Ukraine.
So no 30-year mortgages there.
Only 10. So
Because it's impossible to plan for 30 more years ahead in Ukraine because the economy is not stable.
Yeah.
Like it's impossible.
It's all already pretty difficult to pay it out. But he had like pretty good job. It's a very nice development, and he was very confident, and so he took a loan in dollars, being his income in hryvnias. And then when this crisis happened, after 2 years of paying his mortgage, he basically overnight, he become owning a bank 2 times more than he used to own in the beginning of his loan. So
this is my like nightmare.
2 years
This is nightmare.
made it worse, twice as worse. Like it's insane.
I have another friend.
And there was millions of stories like this.
Yes, my friend from university, she was paying off her mortgage loan. Like it was not her, it was her parents who were helping her to pay off, but they were at the end of paying it off completely, and then they decided to change it at the end.
Valia?
No, Christine, and she wanted to get a bigger one. So she went to the developer company and said like, hey, my small condo is almost paid off. Can I switch it to a bigger one and keep paying? Because it's not complicated to pay. The pay is quite low.
Especially if your parents pay. I mean,
No, she was working and her parents were paying, like they did it together. And they said, yeah, of course, let's do this. So they switched in a few months before the crisis. And then, so I repeat myself, her small condo was almost paid off. They only had like a few payments left. The crisis hits. They switch back from the bigger condo back to the smaller one, the one that they
Already
had the
paid.
almost paid off, and they start paying it off again because of the currency rate.
Exchange,
This is
yeah.
insane. She ended up paying like almost 2 or 3 times more than she was supposed to.
Yeah, we kind of switched topics, but you can tell that 2008 hit hard in Ukraine. Everyone, and especially because everyone were losing their jobs. Crazy enough, by 2008 is the time when I got my best job so far. Like, it kicked off my young adult career. I would say dramatically, because before that I was working like all these different companies, searching for myself, and then in 2008, when everyone was losing their jobs, I got a job at Microsoft Ukraine, as a sales representative, and I worked there for 2 years. But that's the whole nother story.
Yeah.
Coming back to
Real estate.
Real estate, yeah, like you just heard, even her friend's example, that her friend and her parents were both paying off her loan. So it's a basic thing. It's not weird. It's not like you're lazy. Why won't you take responsibility for your life? You're old enough to be thinking about and leaving your parents alone. Like, that's not the thing in Ukraine and pretty much whole ex-USSR bloc, because like, it's an expectation from kids, as well as responsibility from parents.
Yeah. And I don't think kids take it for granted, but I'd rather say that parents feel responsible for providing their kids with housing, because like, they want
There's no
their
other way.
Yeah, there's no other way.
Every
because-
other way is stupid.
But also, I know that here in Canada, I heard it a few times that if you get married, you first have to buy a house and then have kids, because when you have kids, you can't work. And when you don't have kids, both out of the couple, both of them can work and pay the mortgage. In Ukraine, it's not like that. Also in Ukraine, the parents want to have grandchildren as soon as possible. So they're like, we're going to help you get the housing. We're going to help you with babysit. Just give us grandparents, grandchildren. Yeah, grandchildren. And we, as we said, our parents gave us their first housing. Our parents gave us the second housing. Pretty much they gave us the third housing, because we ended up selling the smaller condo to my parents and buying the bigger one. But
we need to explain it. Not like... And you watching this probably thinking like, where would parents get so much cash to, buy it?
We never had mortgage in our life before we came to Canada.
Never had even a loan. Like, the same thing, the mechanics of purchasing something very expensive is the same for anything from our experience. So usually what happens is, like, the most popular case is that kids get married and they rent place first, or live with one of the parents for a few years. Then they rent a place for sure. If they lived with parents, they start renting a place, and then they rent a place until someone's calling you or me?
Me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's spam. Another topic that we could discuss in this podcast. But anyways, so until weirdly enough, someone from grandparents die, and the family, the whole generation, is able to sell grandparents' property to kind of like add up as much as you can and buy at least something. So, for example, one of the grandparents from her side dies, one of the grandparents from his side dies. Both families combine, add something as much as they can, and they buy an apartment, usually the small crappy apartment for the new family. And then the cycle repeats. What happened to our family is pretty much the same, not getting into details, but whenever it's you live there, you renovate it with any money you can, and then you live, and then you have kids, and you sell this one, and you buy another one. In our case, in most cases, like 3 times that happened. So
Yeah.
we got first one, we sold it, got another one, sold it, got another one, and then like 4 or 3.
No, 3.
3 times. But fortunately enough, in all of 3 of these cases, we sold first and bought second one
Cheaper.
no, we bought it with the same money but the better apartment.
The last one actually was cheaper. The last one we sold our smaller condo for one amount of money, and we bought the bigger one, the huge, the 5-bedroom condo for cheaper. Because it took us almost a year and a half to wait until it was finished. So it was a construction site.
Yes.
And we lived in my parents' house while we were waiting, but we did renovate it with the money that he earned. So that was
we sold completely renovated and lived a condo where we lived, having everything ready there, but purchased as we call it here air, right?
Yeah.
We purchased nothing because it wasn't even built. It was a development site. And that's another topic, because in Ukraine, it is very risky. Even in Kiev, which is capital, it is still risky to purchase an apartment that you cannot see. It's not built yet, because a lot of scam still happens.
Yeah, but there are a few developers that are reliable. You can check them, but still things happen. Life happens,
even crisis
and
could
they
happen,
can just go bankrupt overnight. And I know so many cases where when people bought something, they were waiting for a year or 2. They were renting all this time and paying their loan, paying the mortgage, which is insane.
Yeah, again, when she says paid, they paid full price, not the down payment. That's not down payment.
Many people do take mortgages in Ukraine, but those people are heroes, because I know many people who have mortgages. I know many people who have mortgages in Ukraine, but usually those mortgages go for very small housing, very not expensive housing. Nobody that buys $1 million house with a mortgage. No one does that. So if you are about to take a mortgage, it means that you cannot afford even the smallest condo.
Yeah, there's no way for you to live.
That means that you go for the small one. Or, well, there are people who are wealthy and they have money and they're like, why would I give away my money? I will just get a mortgage and buy a big one. Those are like few people in Ukraine. There's not many of those.
I don't think there.
So usually the mortgage comes with a very small condo and that means that people can't afford anything bigger.
You see, the idea that why would I pay for cash if bank can pay for and I will be paying bank back in long run, it makes a lot of sense here.
When the rate is low.
That's weird, because when we came and we heard that everyone's complaining, the mortgage rate is 6 or even 7. We're like, give me 2.
We come from a country where it's 25.
Yeah, give me 2, please. No, I know that you coming from the place where it was like 2 or 3 or like for
1 or 1.5. I know
1.5 for fixed rate for 30 years, and you're still. We all hate you if you're if you're that person. I mean, you have a fixed rate for 30 years.
We have really good terms of.
No, I hate those people. But in Ukraine, if people are like wealthy, they think about these rates even more than people who
Yeah, 'cause
don't have
just
a lot of money.
just 4 or 5 years and you can buy another condo.
Yeah.
So it's always better for you. Like what many people also do, if they have money, if they have income high enough that allows them to accumulate that amount of money to buy a condo without a mortgage within like 4 or 5 or maybe 7 years. I'd say those people usually rent something really
Yeah.
cheap and small
Yeah.
to keep their monthly costs. If there's no way they can live with a parent or a grandparent for free, that means that they go for the cheapest option they have, usually, and they save everything they can to avoid the mortgage, to avoid spending so much money on paying just the cost of the mortgage.
Yeah. So let's forget about the crisis, COVID, war, like those like short, peaceful periods of Ukrainian history. I would say that any young family went through like some extended period of time. I mean, 5 years, approximately five, usually like 5, 6 years, they would go through a period of discomfort in terms of their living conditions.
Yeah.
They go through a huge discomfort, either living with one of the parents' family, which is again not weird. Here it is weird if you're like got
in
married
Ukraine, it's
and you're
fine.
what?
It's fine.
No, like I feel like it's weird. Like
No,
I might be
in
wrong.
Ukraine, it's
yeah,
fine.
in Ukraine it is absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Everyone understands that there's practically no other way. Like where would you get money? And so like these 5 years are, in the best case, it's just renting your separate place, but most of the times you just live with your parents. We were fortunate enough, and we will be forever grateful for our
Yeah, to our
parents,
parents, 'cause-
that the next day we got married, we were able to live in a pretty good conditions, just because her parents left country to live in another one, and we were able to stay at their place, and
Yeah.
it was amazing. And then they helped us to get our first condo and helped us throughout the journey. So we are in very blessed position. But kind of like to explain you the difference is that here
And I think I always told you this, and I will keep repeating myself, that my goal in life, my financial goal in life, is to give housing to all of our kids. I know that's a lot.
Even
because we
here.
have 4 kids. Even like one of our kids will always live with us. He has a disability, but 3 other kids. We have a teenage daughter. She's 16. We have an 11-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter, and I want all of them to have their own house they don't have to pay for. It doesn't have to be anything fancy or very big or anything. It just has
just like
to be
$500,000, something.
It just
like
has to be livable. Like maybe one. I don't think there's such thing as 1-bedroom house, but maybe
No.
2 bedrooms, a starter home.
Yeah, $600,000.
Yeah.
approximately. No, like you see,
I
and we
haven't
have
figured
4
out
kids.
where we. No,
like
Vanya
3.
will
Okay,
be living
yeah,
with us.
Let's say 3.
But I haven't figured out where we will get the money.
You have?
No.
No, okay,
Not
yeah.
yet.
That's usually
Not
how it
yet.
happens, you know. She's like, we're getting there, but I don't know how yet. But at this point, I think we have a common sense where we agree, because I'm like, I don't know how. There's no way we're doing that, but again, if you
There
believe
was
in
no
that,
way we were buying a house here in Canada either.
yes, but it seems like we agreed on the fact that we are aiming towards giving a down payment for
At
our
least.
kids. At least
At
down
least.
payment for our kids, and maybe helping them with
And
their
then paying
mortgage.
the monthly mortgage payments, so that's fine.
Yes, bless us. Please bless us in comments. That might help. That might help. But there's another thing I wanted to say that. So I explained how it happens in Ukraine. So usually these 5 years of discomfort, but if we compare this to peaceful times in Canada, pre-COVID, like 5 years ago, or COVID had happened
4 years ago.
oh,
Yeah.
4 years ago. Okay, so let's remember Canada 4 years ago. You remember because we don't. We didn't know anything about Canada. So my understanding is that you guys like get married, and then the next few months or so you go and take mortgage, you buy a house,
If
and
you have a
live
down
there.
payment and the qualifying
Yeah.
income.
Yeah, but it was way easier to get a mortgage. You had
Before?
before COVID,
Yeah.
it was way easier. You could have had like a very low income, or your parents could be like a
Co-signers, yeah.
signers, which didn't
Yeah,
mean
right now
anything in terms
right
of
now
paying.
you need more income to qualify for a bigger amount.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you did something, but you had a house right away. Is that true? Because in my impression, in my understanding, that's the case. Where in Ukraine you would like go through the learning experience to live and love each other in any conditions, just like
I think
you
here, like,
swear
it's very
in wedding.
diverse as well, because just like in
Of course.
Ukraine, so many newlyweds go and rent their homes, go and buy their homes, and they live with parents or grandparents. Same here, like you get married and you either buy or live with your parents. But what's drastically different, I don't know. Tell us in the comments, maybe we're wrong, but what we see through these 2.5 years in Canada is that parents are not put under pressure to give their kids housing, so the kids didn't have that expense in their adult life.
That's like we just explained that in Ukraine, parents don't feel any pressure too.
Not the pressure,
That's their will. They want
well
that.
intent, and they do everything they can for that. While here in Canada, we see that parents don't have it as the biggest priority
Yeah.
when
I'll help
their
you to
kids grow
explain
up,
it.
right? I don't know how to explain
Yeah,
it right.
I'll try to help you, because probably in Ukraine, any parent feel that they are done with this kid whenever they gave him or her education,
And
or at
housing.
least an option to go for it, because kid can go leave the uni or whatever, and then give them a place to live. Whenever my parents realized that I graduated university and I got married and we have a place to live, they're like, finally,
We're free from
it is
responsibilities.
Yeah, it is finished. Yeah, go ahead. And then even then, my mom would come over to our place every week to bring us food, just because she's chef and cooking is her thing. So she would bring a food and be like, "Oh, you're all so skinny. You need to eat," like Ukrainian mama, you know. I have heard, like, from my TikTok, a lot of people have their nannies or mamas from Ukraine, and they like know this
The mission in life is to feed you.
Yeah, feed you. So yeah, but I also want to bring another idea, a story and a topic to discuss: the rent. So I do have a friend, and he's one of the few, because I consider it to be a rare example, where a guy or a family intentionally believes that you do not want to own anything. Like, you want to rent it, which will his perks of this, like his cons, right? I mean,
Benefits.
pros.
Benefits.
Yes, pros and cons. Cons. Yeah, he's pro Ukrainian English. I told you. So he's in his idea, the benefits of renting is mobility. And when the war happened, he has 4 kids now. He had 3 kids by that time, and they moved to UK. And then we still kind of like sometimes would write each other messages, and he's like, See, whenever we said like we are going into a process of trying to sell our condo or our belongings in Ukraine, he's like, see,
I have nothing to sell.
I have nothing to sell. Everything is in cash, like that kind of thing. But and he's another idea. He's an entrepreneur and pretty successful one. So when I was talking to him, those people are crazy. Like entrepreneurs, it's hard to talk to them. But what his speech in this, whenever we had this discussion, he was like, okay, let's count. Okay, you're owning a home. You need to fix it. You need to, if anything broke, you need to buy it and whatever.
Let me say something.
Yeah, that usual. I'll just finish the idea. This usual
renter
point of rental people.
You gave me that talk as well.
I had that too. I had that too, just because of him and my logical thinking. Yes, it is expensive to own a home. It requires you to buy stuff, to pay. Here in Canada, you freaking pay
$1,000 for a fridge.
No, like a land property
tax.
tax. This is crazy. Like all these payments combined within a year, it is more expensive than renting.
No. Right now, our monthly expenses, well, we switched our mortgage payment schedule, so it's now more expensive than renting. But before we switched, it was the same amount of expenses.
But nothing broke yet.
Did you ever fix anything back in Ukraine in our condo?
No. But I do here.
You do here?
Yeah, but I won't fix furnace for $5,000 when it will break. But as...
You don't have a furnace then?
And as...
You use a fireplace?
And as HVAC people told us, our furnace is about to freaking break.
Well, it's been working for 20 years.
Yes.
It's gonna work for another 20.
Oh yeah, that's how it works.
Hopeful.
Yeah.
Hopeful, wishful thinking.
No. Hypothetic, right? Not
hypothetical, but
hypothetical, but hypothetical. Yeah. Yes.
But anyways, like okay, let me tell you this. Back in Ukraine, we had our condo. I'm gonna talk numbers. We bought it for $95,000 US. We invested, or we bought it for 90.
92.
90.
Invested 60.
70 invested.
70.
So $160,000 was our condo. It was a big condo, 5-bedroom condo. It was a really nice one. We sold it for way more money. And it means that we earned money
even
on that investment.
During the war, which is the biggest surprise for people looking.
And
watching.
We sold, some of our belongings were donated. We donated lots of stuff. And some of them were sold. And still we earned money. So that's my point. When you rent, you can only sell like your couch, your pants, your camera, your plates or anything. When you buy, you build equity and you can sell, improving the value, like increasing the value of your house. Like your toilet broke, you replace the toilet, and your value of the house rose, so you can sell it for more money.
Sounds so good.
It is good.
Yeah. If the market goes up.
If the market goes down, you just sit in your house and be happy that you have a roof above your head.
You're going to have to help us out in the comments.
If the market goes down.
We bought a house, but I'm not completely 100% sure that we did right, especially in this turbulent times, especially when, you know, my job and the thing I do for a living, if it goes even better and even more successful, the industry that I work at, it belongs to West Coast US. Like we're destined to California. Like because the oldest
goodbye. I'm not moving anywhere.
No, like it's not like oh my god, I see. All right, I'm
not going anywhere.
Yeah, so we already have these discussions just because, you know, I have these business trips every summer. But after I come back from these business trips, I realized that if I would have lived there, I would have these networking and offline stuff way more regular, and the business would be better. That's
Yeah.
100%. Just because I work in this creators, influencer marketing, content creation industry. So this whole thing is our hobby at this point. But I did this professionally for 8 years back home in Ukraine as a business. So yeah,
So the real estate.
real estate renting. So renting is stupid.
Renting is stupid because you're paying somebody else's mortgage. And if that somebody else decides to increase your rent, what you gonna do? Like, you wake up and your landlord says, like, hey, I'm raising your...
They can do that.
They can
We
do
just
that.
talked to one of my colleagues here, and he said that he received a letter from the landlord saying that we want to increase your monthly payment by 1.2%.
Yeah.
According
There's a
to
limit.
inflation. Yeah,
There's a
the
limit.
only way they can do that is according to inflation in Ontario, or I don't like to explain it as I know it, right? But what he did is very actually funny and interesting. He uploaded their huge 30 pages contract with the landlord, contract for rental, to ChatGPT, and then uploaded the letter where the landlord says that they want to increase payment. And he says, like, can they do that? And it took like 5 minutes for ChatGPT, and ChatGPT came back, said, yes, they can, but they have to like tell you this in 90 days
in advance.
So what they but the letter said that we're gonna raise it from the next month. But what he did, like, he asked ChatGPT, like, can you help me to
Explain.
come up with an answer? And there was a letter from ChatGPT saying, like, hey, thank you for this information. Thank you for notifying me for 90 days in advance. So starting this month, in 3 months, I'll be paying more. And he's like, that's a passive aggressive ChatGPT. Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
1 second. I'm sorry.
Kids. We had to pause just
sorry.
because there's no way we are just sitting and talking for an hour and no one interrupts us. So
Yes.
that's another thing you can expect from this podcast. We are pausing and then we are coming back with faces like, so let's continue.
Yeah, our dog closed himself in our bedroom and it was barking.
Yeah, so
And
we
our-
had 4 kids and a dog.
Yeah,
There's
and a
no
guinea
way-
pig.
And a guinea pig.
Yeah.
Please help. Send help. Yeah, so that's probably we touched a lot of topics. We didn't dive that deep enough.
I think there's so much
Yeah.
more to discuss and unpack in this.
What we're gonna do is that we're gonna start the next episode by reading your comments and answering your questions.
Yeah, that would
regarding
make
this
more
topic.
sense.
Yeah, because usually I did that. You need to know about one more thing about me. I had 2 different podcasts at the same time. Like, I would run them simultaneously for one was
I don't
for
remember.
8 years
Podcast.
video podcast
Yeah.
for 8 years, weekly vidcast podcast. And then another one was for 2 years at the same time. So I have pretty much a lot of experience in this thing, and that's why I'm beyond excited in doing this
So you're gonna
again.
do 5 episodes.
Yeah, 5
Not
at least.
3, not 4, but 5.
No, it's all up to you. I'm ready to do this like weekly, because and if you'll see that our podcast is over, that you know the reason,
He'll be the only host then.
Yeah, that could happen too. But anyway, I'm very excited. I really want to know more about Canada, about how things done in Canada. We are thinking about the next topic. the comparison between things in Canada and things in Ukraine, specifically in raising kids
In parenting.
and parenting. Whew, whew, that
But
be,
maybe if we get too many questions and comments regarding real estate, we will continue this.
yeah,
topic.
that's what I was gonna say. That usually when we're like answering questions for the previous episode, it takes like half of a new episode to answer. But anyway, we'll see how it will go. But for now, we are very excited. Thank you very much. If you watched this till the end, please support us with your comment, with your like, with your share.
Tell us your experience with real estate.
Yeah. What you think about how things done in Ukraine. Yeah, we're very excited.
And I think we don't know all
We
about
definitely don't.
how real estate between generations work in Canada. So please do share your
And
experience
share your
and your
stories.
knowledge. Share your stories.
How did you get your first house? That'd be interesting.
Yeah, that would be really interesting, and we'll be really glad to read your stories. And
I'm sure everyone
questions.
would say like, "Oh, I just went to a bank and took a mortgage and then paid it in 20 years, or still paying
In
it
3
because
years.
it's $800 because I have a 1.3% fixed rate for 30 years." Thank you very much. Bye. Subscribe.
Bye.